Good morning, everyone. I call the meeting for economic development to order. Please, roll call.
Commissioner Ware,
Present.
Commissioner Varga, Commissioner Palomino.
Here.
Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Here.
Commissioner Baydoun.
He'll be here in a few minutes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Varga,
She's right here.
Commissioner Hattis.
Present.
Chairman, you have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item B, approval of the July 16th, 2019.
Motion been made and supported. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose, motion carry. Next item.
Next item C, old business. There is none, Chairman.
Thank you. Next item.
Next item D1, under new business, D1 through 7 are communications.
Those could go under one motion for receive and file. Okay. 7. Yes. Yeah, it's item 7. It's about the hazardous waste. I attend a meeting in Romulus, and I was sad by the attendance. They sent 500 some invitation. Only 3 people show who doesn't need invitation. Myself and Councilman Wadsworth from Romulus and the city of Romulus's attorney. That's all was in the audience. And when negative news fly, then everybody calling you, everybody raising hell. When we have a discussion to make sense out of what we're doing and hear the people's opinion and nobody show, I was very disappointed. That any motion been made and supported, any question or discussion? Commissioner Anderson.
I agree that it's disappointing not to have a greater turnout, but I sometimes wonder too how notification is being provided to people. If they send 500 letters out, is that within a certain distance of the property and that's it? I think a lot of times, even if they advertise in the newspapers, very few people are subscribing to the local newspaper, if they even have one any longer.
Right.
So we've got to figure out some way that, I mean, this is not us providing the notification, but I think government as a whole has to find a better way to communicate with people, to let them know about things like this. But anyway, I just wanted to say that I because of some recent local events, people aren't notified beyond what's required by state law, and they don't know a lot of times. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I didn't know if you wanted to separate that one out, because I know you've been a leader on those issues, of whether you want to just continue to take them out, amend my motion, or if you'd like, or I can leave it as is.
Well, for any further question, probably we should separate it. I agree with you.
I'll amend my motion to make it approval of 1 through 6 then.
Is,
Is this a receive and file?
yes.
It is too.
Yeah, but
It
we're
is
going to
too.
make it separately in case.
Support to receive and file 1 through 6.
Okay.
Okay. Motion been made and supported. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, motion carries. Now we take item 7.
It's receive and file.
Receive and
also.
file. We need a motion for that.
I'll make the motion to receive and file, otherwise it's going to stay at the committee level, so.
Right.
Right,
We
right.
have no choice.
No. I agree, no matter what step we take or what our vote is, it's, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion been made and supported. All those who agree signify.
Aye.
Aye. Just want to know if you can attach some unhappy emojis to that.
Yeah, I think for the record, I did in the beginning say I was very disappointed, but what surprised me really, the people in Romulus always respond and attend those meetings heavy. And was city council man was there, it's mean the people aware of it, but for some reason was nobody. And I asked a lot of questions, and they was very professional. They answered most of the question, and but sometimes the public could bring something out.
If I could, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, I think one of the problems is a lot of people see, the ones that do pay attention to it and may have an interest in it, feel it's futile. Because if you recall, we attended one in Romulus, I think it was last year. And EPA representatives were there, and it was basically said, we're here to hear you, we're here to listen to you, or hear your complaints or wishes, but basically it's not going to make any difference. And what we need to do is, I think, assure people that, or we need to employ our legislative, at the congressional level, and press them to change this process, that give greater weight to the citizens that'll be affected by it or stand to be affected by it.
I remember that meeting, and my main question, the room have a couple hundred people in it, and I asked the EPA on how they evaluate our score number for granting the license.
Permit.
I said, did the public opinion have any spot in that? He said, no. And the people went against it, and they issued the license anyway, the state. And my question is, EPA, environmental protection, protecting who? You don't protect the people, because the people, it's not part of the process of issuing the license or not. So that it was a disappointment. But anyway, we make our remark.
Yeah, maybe we can, on behalf of the commission and of Wayne County, connect with our congressional representatives and ask them to ask them to do whatever they can to change that process. So there's greater weight given to local people that are most affected by it.
I support that, and I have resolution in the past signed by all commissioner on that. And to make a note, our chair joined us for this meeting, and thank you, and my apology, the cellular phone doesn't tell me where your friend is, and I call and she was far away. Thank you. I did that to Mr. Glape, the township supervisor from Huron Township, and he's with us today because we have important issue that affect the township and the whole region. And he been very helpful and instrumental in studying the process and work for the process for the next two item. And I acknowledge he worked very hard. Mr. Clerk, next item. Yeah, we voted on number 7, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I
Just making sure. Okay, that's good.
you could put me no because I don't want to break the pattern
So put you
of
a
the
no.
environment.
No vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Duly noted.
Tell them no. I just don't wanna break my reputation as I always vote no on those environmental expansion and increasing capacity. So
And item 8, approval to authorize the Charter County of Wayne to enter into a development agreement with the Wayne County Land Bank Corporation.
Okay, thank you. We have with us the Economic Development Director, Kalira Hall, and some of the staff. Please take a seat and introduce yourself. Commissioner,
Thank you.
Com-
Sorry.
Good morning, Khalil Hall, Assistant County Executive.
Cheryl Jordan, Deputy Corporation Counsel.
David Glabe here, on Township Supervisor.
And good morning, Daniel Rosenbaum, Wayne County Land.
Thank you. As you know, we've been working on this project for many months, and in my opinion, it's a very important project for the future of this region in Wayne County. It's involved 600 acre in the Pinnacle area with a group of developer who have the reputation and they show some success in different spot in the country, especially in Texas. They qualify from all aspect of the issue. Financially, they did project larger than that in the past, and they was very successful. And then, thanks to Mr. Glabe, the township supervisor, we went through countless days of debate, individually and meeting, and until we get to this point, and the township agreed to rezone the property. And hopefully we getting very close to close the deal, and it's one of the steps the county need to take today. And we'll be glad to answer any question.
So through the chair and to the rest of the body, if I may, I appreciate that introduction. I think to understand this, there's a bit of history that's necessary to understand it. Many of you, some of you were around, and many of you remember that in 2008, the county sold this piece of property for $1. And we put about $26 million in infrastructure in and around the site. $13 million of the 26 was actually bonded out for. And that $13 million over the course of 30 years ended up being approximately $28 million. Now, to pay that, the previous administration set up a Brownfield Tax Increment Financing Authority, or a TIF. And the idea is that the Brownfield Authority would capture all the future taxes and had an agreement with the township to either, one, pay off 100% of the debt, or capture it until 2038, which is 30 years approximately for the Brownfield Authority. In addition to that, the previous administration sold the property through the Wayne County Land Bank. And as you all know, when we sell property through the Wayne County Land Bank, the land bank gets 50% of the taxes for 5 years. Now, we all know that there wasn't a penny collected on taxes on the site. And so this previous year, this last year, the Wayne County Treasurer made a decision to foreclose on the site. And so proactively, we got together with the township and with the supervisor and some of the other township board members, and we wanted to do the same thing that we did with McLeod Steel. We wanted to proactively market the site, try to get some competitive bids going, try to find a developer who would master plan the site before it went to auction. By the way, we should all take a tour of McLeod Steel. It's going to be a very good success story. For 27 years, McLeod Steel has sat there contaminated without a dime being spent in it, and in 1 year's time, double-digit amount of buildings have been torn down, millions of dollars have been spent on the site. There is 50 people working on site every single day. Every company working on McLeod Steel is a Wayne County company except for one, and McLeod Steel is on a national priorities list, which means we're getting federal dollars back into our region to help clean that site up. So it's going to be a great success, and I would offer it to anybody to schedule a time where we can take the entire Wayne County Commission body and take a tour of McLeod Steel to see what this tool of exercising a right of refusal and getting under development requirements can accomplish. We wanted to take that same proactive step, and I can't think of a more important piece of property than this one because of the $28 million in debt that still being paid on till this day by 1.75 million people of the taxpayers. Now, the good news is, under our agreement with the township and the Brownfield Authority, we can still collect up to 100% of that debt, or until 2038, whatever comes first. And so it's very, very important that we take, some aggressive action to make sure that we get a qualified user and get development requirements so that we make sure it gets back on the tax roll so that we can capture those taxes so that we can keep paying down on that debt. In addition to the greatness of development, jobs, investments, and what's betterment for the region, right? And so that's what we did in this case. We met with the township about a year ago, and in January of this year, we put out an RFP collectively with the township. We put it on BidNet. It was out there for about 49 days. It was also given to the Detroit Regional Partnership for them to advertise. I know we sent it to over 900 companies. I know it was downloaded about 162 times. In the end, we ended up receiving 2 offers, one from Hillwood Development and one from New Era. New Era is a nonprofit, and they were proposing to do a sports complex on site. It didn't take us long to discover that the New Era development, while it was very well intended, did not have enough money to satisfy the development. It had a bank account of negative $500. It had a lot of public financing and philanthropy that was a part of the development. And those things, although, maybe possible, didn't give us the kind of comfort that we needed to sort of go through the right of refusal process. We did, however, heavily investigate the Hillwood Development Company. As the commissioner mentioned, it is headquartered out of Texas. They do have developments in almost every state in America, other countries around the world. Aaron Wagner can spend a half hour talking to you about Dun & Bradstreet, the Better Business Bureau, Laura and Sam's, and all the websites and the federal levels and the state levels that he's looked at. But this is a Class A company that does amazing things. One of the best examples that I can describe for everybody is their Alliance Center in Texas. In Texas, they own about 26,000 acres. That was rooted in logistics development. It is an area of Texas that is around an airport between Dallas and Fort Worth, Texas. And over time, it has spurred somewhere around 62,000 jobs. Everything from logistics to the Facebook data center to Six Flags to the Charles Schwab headquarters has spurred up in that area, and it's been a relatively successful development. Just to remind everybody, the land that we're talking about here is around an airport between Ann Arbor and Detroit. It is 650 acres, but it's a substantial amount of property to try to accomplish something on a smaller scale. So we feel like we've got the right user. We feel like we've got the right development plan. We feel like we've got the right area. And with the township, the county and township made a selection. I will tell you that we have had, this meeting here will be, I think, the 12th public meeting we have had about this project and the Hillwood Development Group. Most of them obviously at the local township, but they include the local Development Finance Authority, the Planning Commission, and the Township Board. And I'm happy to say that 2 out of 3 of those boards have passed 2 resolutions. They've all passed resolutions, but 2 of them had passed it twice, unanimously supporting our actions that we're requesting of this body today. To show you the level of commitment that the township has made, they have rezoned the property. They have rezoned the property to match what these developers can and want to do. And so that takes a huge level of commitment. I want to thank the supervisor and the rest of the boards for taking on those actions. The proposed development you're not voting on today. We don't have that in front of you. In fact, we're submitting it right now to your staff. They haven't even had a chance to look at it. But I can tell you that the proposed development will be a mixed-use development that will include commercial or office, possibly some entertainment along Sibley Road. That will basically not include industrial along Sibley Road, but industrial can occur behind Sibley Road. We are working on development requirements that include minimum amounts of investments of at least $40 million in the 5-year range, and local hiring practices, and all the things that you typically find in our development agreements. We try to use McLeod as the model, and so based on the size of the land, the usable land, what we did with McLeod, the numbers that we did with McLeod, you will find that if you compared those, they're somewhat in the same range, or not exactly in the same range. Not every land is exactly the same, but they're somewhat in that range, and that's the kind of model we went with. And as you all know, the structure of this deal includes an IGA with the land bank. In order to exercise a right of refusal, the county has to pay off the back taxes to make all the taxing jurisdictions whole. That is approximately $4.8 million. The good news is, as I mentioned before, we set up a TIF, a Tax Increment Financing Authority, to capture that taxes, to make it come back to the county. And so a large chunk of that $4.8 million will just basically come right back to us, almost like a credit, except that we do have to move the dollars from one account to another. Now, I mentioned earlier that we sold the property to the Wayne County Land Bank, and the Wayne County Land Bank gets approximately, it's a little bit more than $1.4 million. The land bank has to receive its funds, and so we thought it was better to give the land bank the money out of the sale of the proceeds when we sell the property than give the money now. And that's the purpose of the IGA. And if you have any questions on that, Cheryl and Daniel can answer more of those questions. If you have any accounting questions on that, we've got Kevin Haney in the back here who can answer more questions about that. But the long and short of it is, we would rather pay that money when we sell the land than we pay it out of our funds right now. So we're very excited about this. This is a huge opportunity. We know that this development and this site has had a lot of history to it. But we feel like for the first time in a while, we're going to get it right. And I just leave it up to the supervisor here to say any closing comments before we take any questions.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to present before you today. The last time I saw many of you, we were jammed in the back of an orange extended length van touring the mill sites.
That's right.
And the air conditioning was not working, right, Commissioner? It was a very memorable day. It made the 92-degree air outside look downright pleasant compared to what was inside the van, right?
That's why we need to sell the land. We need air conditioning for the buses that we.
Yeah, so we really need to generate some revenue here. But Khalil laid out the history very well, and what brings us here today. I'm going to share with you a little bit of a unique perspective in that this property and the potential development of it actually, although it had some recent activity, it really goes back nearly 20 years. In fact, I was supervisor back when Pinnacle first became an idea or even a region. And at that time, and it's striking because today, the elements are very similar to back then. The economy is doing very well. Interest rates were low. Developers were in the business of getting things done. So it was a very prosperous time. And at that time, the Wayne County administration with the Wayne County Commission was, even at that time, trying to choose a master developer for that property. So it's kind of like deja vu again. And what happened subsequently to that, because of, if these things can be a struggle, we weren't able to successfully choose a master developer, and so time went on, and then the economy turned south, and so the economic cycle took its turn, and there just wasn't as much opportunity to develop out there for many, close to 2 decades. So here we are, fast forward to today. We have a very similar situation in that, again, the economy is doing well, and we have a potential to do something very positive at that site. And I think it's really imperative that, we get the job done this time, because as economic cycles go, who knows, in a short amount of time, perhaps a few years, where it's going to be very difficult to, again, to develop. So I think we have a timing issue here that I think is very critical, aside from all these other factors. But I think it's important to know that even though we're looking to act on these matters relatively quickly. The township and the Evans administration have been at work on this for a long time. As Khalil pointed out, we've been at this well over a year in terms of the RFQ process. And the whole vetting process has brought us to where we are today. And it's been a lot of heavy lifting, but I really want to thank the county team. They've just been really super. There's been a lot of give and take and a lot of complicated and serious discussions, but we got to a place that allowed our planning commission, our LDFA, our township board, again, to unanimously agree on this project. So we have an opportunity today, particularly with the Hillwood Group, that really has the means to develop in a way that the township is comfortable, and I think the county would be very proud of as well. The debt that could be retired once we get this property back on the tax rolls is pretty important. There's been a lot of infrastructure put into the ground out there, and the faster we can turn this property back into its best and highest productive use is actually good for everybody. Obviously, we can retire debt, and it spurs other development, which we're anxious for in the township. 20 years ago, when I was presenting in front of the same subcommittee, when we were trying to acquire the master developer back then, I had mentioned that as the Pinnacle area goes, so does the township. I mean, that's how important this area is. And that's why I'm excited, the fact that, we have a quality developer that knows how to get the job done. And that's fairly important. There's no guarantees in life, but certainly when you have a company with a proven track record of getting these type of things done throughout the country, that's really important. The last thing that any of us need out there is another failed project that just, it has so many negative consequences for all of us. You start to develop a reputation for not being able to get the job done, and maybe not even being development friendly. So I would implore you to look favorably on this project. Again, it has the full support of our township. It's been well vetted. We have the timing, again, is just really, I think, critical that we don't delay and lose another opportunity. And so I just would ask for your support, and I appreciate the opportunity to present to you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Glabe, and we appreciate your hard work and communication with us for last 7-8 months, and it's what got us in here. So now I open the floor for the commissioner, Commissioner Palomero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some of us have been around the entire 20 years.
I was going to let you offer that, Joe.
Right, and others, most of the 20 years. So, Madam Chair, this is an exciting day to turn the page on this piece of property and on this development, and I'd be more than honored to offer the motion to approve items 8 and 9.
Motion been made in support. Any discussion? Commissioner McCormick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The 30% of the proceeds that will go back to the land bank,
Yes, ma'am.
why are we giving 30% rather than returning the 1.4 million or a interest on that money rather than 30%?
Yeah.
I guess I'm not understanding the 30.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So, in order for the land bank to not take the money right up front, it has to accomplish it by some legal means. And there are two ways of doing that under the land bank statute. It can provide the county a loan, or it can get involved in an investment. The county cannot take a loan. And so the only other legal option that we have in front of us is an investment. 30% is $1.4 million of 4.8 that's owed on the entire site, and that's why that number is what it is. And so if the whole transaction has to look, feel, smell like an investment, but, and it does, and the one thing that was very important to the county was we didn't want the land bank to cost the county any interest, and so that's why it's at 0% interest. Now, this morning, we have submitted the purchase and development agreement it's in the TCM process, so it's going to you all right now. The purchase price is the same purchase price. It's the back taxes. It is not intended to be any more. It is not intended to be any less. It is going to be for the back taxes price. So we're getting there with the legal means we have in front of us, and the hope is that we pay the proceeds pay the land bank out of the proceeds.
And did we talk about the potential sale price of the?
Yeah. Yeah, the
May have
potential.
missed that.
No, the potential sale price is the back taxes owed, which is approximately 4.866. Is that right? Is that go ahead, Cheryl. Yeah, 4.866682. So $4,800,066,682. That is the back taxes price, and that's going to be the sale price.
Okay, so we're paying the back taxes, then turning around and selling it for the same price?
Exactly.
Okay, and why are we doing that again?
Why are we doing?
Why are we, instead of, well, I guess we're purchasing it, the back taxes,
Yes.
we're paying off the back taxes?
We are paying off the back taxes,
And
but
then-
because of the Brownfield Authority
Okay.
TIF that we have on there, much of the money is, again, coming right back to us. And in essence, really, of the 4.866, right now, the county will only be paying about $117,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And
Commissioner Bell?
just to add to that real quick, the $117,000, that is for taxing jurisdictions that we have to make whole, like the DIA, the zoo, and COBO, and then approximately some admin dollars for the treasurer that he cannot waive.
Madam the Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just first thank you for your leadership on this. I know it's been a lot of months and meetings that you've attended to just kind of bring this whole process together. So thank you for that. And thank you, Supervisor, for coming down here today to be with us to give us this information. I've been involved in some of these meetings as well, and the process has been pretty transparent as to the desire to get that property up and developed because, as we know, unfortunately, the prior use of land with the racetrack didn't go as planned. So I'm hopeful that we get it right this time and get a development agreement that will actually benefit Wayne County as well as Huron Township. My question is, although we don't have the development agreement in front of us, in a perfect world, and if everything passes the smell test, what's the date of completion that you see before things are up and running? We're in 2019 now, so we're
Right.
thinking 2023, 2024. What would be
Yeah.
the time frame to get jobs
Yeah.
and the back on the tax rolls?
Assuming we close this year, and I would like to close this year so that we start getting it on the tax rolls next year. Because as you all know, if we own this property, or if a public body owns this property, come January 1, it gets, next year is all free taxes. So we've got to close on this property before this year. So assuming we do that, and let's put that date somewhere around Halloween, between then and Thanksgiving, but let's say around Halloween. Under our development agreement, there is a minimum, and it's a minimum, and it's intended to be cautious and for sure, but it's a minimum requirement of $40 million to be spent within 5 years.
Okay, so
Yeah.
within 5 years, we
Yes.
should be up and
Yeah.
back on the tax rolls. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, it'll be back in the tax
Okay,
rolls
next
next
year
year
for tax rolls,
if
but-
we close before the end of the year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Baidoon?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and kudos to you again for your leadership, for all the work that you put in this and bringing it to this level. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor and Khalil, for laying out this property here. From my perspective, yes, closing on this before December 31st is very important because we want it to go on the tax roll. If we close on January 2nd,
Right.
then they get a free taxes for the next year. I have a question. Is anybody here from the developers?
Yes.
They are here?
Yeah. Would you like to hear from him?
Yes.
Come to the table, please. Welcome. And if anybody else of your team like to come. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Good morning. My name is Ellie Torgo. I'm the CEO of the Sterling Group. And this is Danny Sampson, the Chief Development Officer of Sterling Group. This, first of all, thank you for having us in front of you this morning. We're very appreciative. We are the joint venture partner with Hillwood. Together, we've built many developments around the world. Our latest here in Michigan is in Shelby Township. We just completed about 1 million square feet for Amazon on 23 Mile and Mound. We take a lot of pride in our developments, and so the product that we build is very important to us, that it's appropriate for the community, works for the community. We've worked a lot with the township supervisor and his team to make sure that we're coming into a community that shares the same values and interests as we do, and that's really important to us. And so we're here to answer any questions.
So this is going to be a mixed-use industrial and commercial? That's what it sounds like?
Correct.
Okay. Have you identified any potential tenants for this project?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. I'm excited about this opportunity because this is a big deal for Wayne County. The land has been sitting there and it failed, I guess, in 2008 with the current use that they have. So let me understand this, Mr. Rahal. You said something that for $117,000, basically you're saying we can regain control of this property. Am I understanding that correctly?
If we don't exercise a right of refusal, it will go to auction, and then we will have absolutely no control. It is $117,000 is the cost right now. Eventually, we will have to pay the land bank. It's $1.4 million, and that's why we have the IGA.
Okay. So if we don't exercise the option, it goes to the auction and it goes to the speculators and it could sit there, God knows for how many years, and we don't have control of it.
That's the idea.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you. I know Township Supervisor had mentioned about this seems like deja vu. And I remember when I was in Lansing and the previous executive came up and had these great predictions about what Pinnacle was going to mean to the county. And just to, I guess, to recap a little bit, that it's 2008 was just prior to probably the biggest economic meltdown that we saw, most of us sitting around this table, if not every one of us, and a very deep and long recession was on the verge of starting. And all predictions are currently that we may be in the same situation again. And I take the rosy predictions with a grain of salt that we could be in the same situation again. So I discount, I guess I don't totally discount, but I do want to express concern that this is not a certainty. I mean, I understand, we would be able to get this unloaded, the property unloaded, but as far as a prediction of what may come, it may be a long time coming, and then we may be, or a successive commission may be in the same situation 10 years from now, trying to recover something from this property. I did want to ask our legal counsel if she, based on what she's heard here, if there's anything additional that has convinced you that this agreement needs to be necessary, because I know in the highlights you indicated that, Felicia, that the agreement does not appear to be necessary.
So you're talking about item 9.
Let's see. Yes, I guess it is.
So through,
Felicia?
Through the chair, so we're dealing with two items with your motion. Item 9 is the right of refusal request, which is the actual item that will purchase the property from the treasurer. That's obviously necessary. With regards, the analysis only addresses the agreement with the land bank. The only thing that agreement accomplishes is that it asks the land bank to give the county back $1.4 million to sit in an account for 3 months until the property closes. That's the only thing that agreement with the land bank does. It says, we are going to pay the 4.8 to the treasurer. The treasurer is going to disperse money to the taxing jurisdictions. The land bank gets 1.4 million. They're going to give us back that 1.4 million to sit in an account for 3 months, and then we're going to either pay them the 1.4 or we're going to give them 30%, whatever the amount is, and it goes away. So it does nothing other than allow money to sit in account for the county. The county currently has $5.5 million in that account. They're going to spend the 4.8. They're going to eventually get 1.4 back from the land bank. So I say it's unnecessary because the county has the money currently. So all this does is says, give us the money back and let it sit here for 3 months until we close. So it doesn't seem necessary from that perspective. However, it's my understanding that M&B thought that it would be more beneficial to have the money sit in our account, I guess, than versus giving it to the land bank immediately. So that's the reason for the analysis indicating that the agreement itself with the land bank, not the development deal or not the right of refusal, but just the land bank agreement doesn't appear to be necessary because it does nothing other than allow money to sit in the county account for a few additional months.
I think it may have been addressed about why we're talking about 30% from the sale of the property versus the actual amount that the land bank is contributing in the sale or the purchasing, gaining ownership of the property. And again, Khalil, could you mention that again? What you were saying, that the fact that they're investing this money, it's
got to be an investment. Because again, the other legal option that we have in front of us is a loan. The county doesn't take out loans. And so that's why it's an investment. Investment as you think of it, when you put an investment into a property, if a property sells for less, you get less. And so there's a risk there. And so that's why the 30% is the approximate number of 1.4 from the 4.8. That's why the number is what it is. Whether, Felicia may be, technically, right, it may not be necessary. It's good accounting. It's better to use future proceeds to pay off the 1.4 million than money that you have on your books now, if you have the money on your books, in case those things aren't already obligated or whatever the case is. Obviously, they're going through a budget process that Kevin and Mark can tell you way better than I can, but budgeting has already occurred, and so it makes a whole lot more sense to use future money than the money we have now.
And what's the market value of the property? And has it been
That's a good
appraised?
question. We do have a broker's opinion of value that we are submitting with the purchase and development agreement, and it splits the parcel up into 3 parcels, A, B, and C, and you'll see why, because the foreclosed properties we're treating differently than the other 2 properties. But this is a interesting question. You're going to get the analysis, and we've got the developers right here. We are selling the property for more than the property of the broker's opinion of value is worth. I think it sets it to just under $4 million, if I got it correct. But you will have that broker's opinion of value.
Okay. And just to back up a little bit too of what you had said at the very beginning, at the outset, talking about McLeod. Yes, we got federal dollars coming back from, by it being cited as the a waste or a facility that with a great deal of pollution that the county couldn't have afforded to do on their own. But I don't think the county's receiving any of that money, because it sounded like you were saying that the county's going to receive a lot of money from the feds. And I think the EPA site designation for that property is going to the developer.
Absolutely.
Right.
In the county, and it's not.
I said and the county.
In the development is in the county.
Right,
It's in
right, I
Wayne
understand,
County.
but I'm just saying.
It's between 2 different municipalities within Wayne County.
Just
It
to
is-
make sure it's clear that we're not receiving the money, it's the developer.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
thank you.
I want to note, I failed to mention, we have the director of the Southwestern Chamber of Commerce, Ron Hendricks, with us today. We're glad to have you here. Thank you. Okay, who's next? Commissioner Baydun.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Couple things. Khalil, you said that we have a broker's opinion on value. Do we know how many acres are all the acres developable? I mean, do we have any wetland there?
We do, and the broker's opinion of value does the best that it can with the information we have in front of us right now to parse some of that out. The developers are on site right now doing their due diligence. They are under a short timeline to be able to accomplish that. To show you the level of commitment from the development group, they have spent money out there trying to figure out this question. If, in the last meeting that we had together, this number can grow and it can shrink, but we're looking at approximately 50% of the property being developable as we speak. Again, it can grow, it can shrink, and we're still working through the due diligence, but I'm not out of line in saying, Danny or Ellie, that approximately 50% of the property is developable.
And it sounds like the developers have extensive experience in developing other projects throughout the country. It seems like I am hoping that they will be committed to the residents of Wayne County to make sure that this is a successful project and you're not going to walk away from it. So we're putting on the spot a little bit here.
Thank you. Any other question? Seeing none, motion been made and supported. All those who agree signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carry. Congratulations to all of you who worked very hard on this project, especially you, Khalil, and Mr. Glade and the staff. And thank you for the chairman for responding too fast to my question and answer. That's why we reached this point, and it's a good day in Wayne County's history. Thank you. Next item.
Next item E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
Any such other matter? Seeing none. Next item.
Next item F, public comments.
Any public comment? Once, twice, 3 times. Next item.
Next item G, adjournment.
Support.
Motion been made and supported. All those who agree signify by
Aye.
saying aye. If anybody disagree, could stay.
Anybody who